Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Tanya Chartrand. See, okay, I got it. Okay,
You
everyone,
got it.
I was worried ahead of time. Once she pronounced it to me, I was like, okay, that's that. But we got it now, so we can get that out of the way. She's a two-time Olympian, as well as having two pro wins coming to us all from the Great White North. That is Canada. She's in BC right now. But yeah, she's on here to share, her health and fitness journey and talk all things bodybuilding really with us. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Tanya, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I always ask this question first off. What is the weather like today in your neck of the woods?
Oh, well, there was apparently snow 5 minutes from me all the way around. But I didn't get any snow today. So it's just been kind of a cloudy, cold, rainy day.
Those are always the weirdest things. Like they happen sometimes in Minnesota where the neighboring cities all get snow and then you just happen to not, and you're just like, hey, it's
A
funny.
good day.
I'm not going to get too much into my winter weather because I'm going to depress everyone and myself included. So, Tanya, wanted to start this off. Why don't you just give us your backstory on what really inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how you got into the realm of bodybuilding?
Well, it's kind of a interesting story. When I was in my early 20s, I used to I'm old, so it was a long time ago. But in my early
The
20s, I was
benefits of the
very
sport, she still looks like she's in her 20s, everyone. So.
yeah, but in my early 20s, I really decided to not decided, but like I thought that was something that I wanted to do is compete. I went to a lot of the local shows, and back then they didn't have figure, they didn't have women's physique. It was just men's bodybuilding and fitness. They had women's fitness, and so I used to go to a lot of the regional shows back then. And I thought, geez, these girls doing like cartwheels on the stage, I can do that. I can get into shape. I can do that. So I was really interested in it back then. But then I got pregnant and had a son, and life kind of got away on me. So fast forward almost 20 years, and I I was going through some health issues. I almost died a couple of times. I won't get into all of the in depth stuff of it all, but I had some really bad health issues going on for quite some time. I was in a bit of a depression, and I gained a lot of weight, and I was in a funk, and I decided one day that enough was enough, and I just got up and went to the gym. And basically from that day forward, I pretty much engulfed my whole self into the sport of bodybuilding. And I always kept in my mind back to when I was in my early 20s, and it was something that I really wanted to do. And it just sparked something in me. Let's say a couple of months into that journey, of getting my health back and being at the gym, somebody said, why don't you compete? And I was like, compete, come on, I just started at the gym, this is ridiculous, I'm not going to compete. And before you know it, I was talked into it, and hired a coach at a nutrition store. And I did my first bikini competition. I did bikini, and my one and only bikini show. And fast forward from that, let's say within a year and a half, I had my pro card in women's figure. So yeah, that's kind of the backstory.
I want to meet these people that are able to just talk these people into competing in shows, because I was like, you'd be great salesman. I want to get like your salesmanship advice then, because that's so many times I've heard on this podcast that like, yeah, I was just talked into it, and I was like, I want to meet these people and figure it out. But yeah, that's great. And I mean, when you were getting started in the sport, were there any misconceptions that you had about it? Because unfortunately, when you mention bodybuilding to the general public, I mean, most of the time people are going to just have these myths about the sport, and when you add the female bodybuilding into it, it's like 10 times more extreme with some of the myths that people believe in. Was there anything that you were concerned about getting into the sport, or were you just one of those people where you just want to dive right in?
Well, initially I was like very green, so I didn't know anything about the sport really, except for you lift weights, you get in shape, and you put on a sparkly bikini and you get on stage, right? I mean, even when I went into after I finished my bikini contest, I was told I had too much muscle. So I said, okay, well, let me do women's figure. So I went into women's figure, and then from there, where was I going with that? My head just kind of got
Well,
lost.
I just love the fact that there's scenarios where people were told you have too much muscle for a bodybuilding competition. That's kind of like telling a. That's kind of like telling. Well, yeah, I know, but it's like telling a pageant competitor you're too pretty, basically, for this show or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we all have a physique that's structured or like built for a certain. We all hold different kinds of muscle, right? So my body type and the amount of muscle that I was able to gain and put on was just not proper for bikini. And even later on, it turned out that I had too much muscle and had to transition from women's figure to women's physique. But I think what I was getting at was one of the main things that was difficult in my mind was um, I always wanted to be feminine and I always wanted to, keep long, pretty hair and, not lose my hair and have facial hair and, all of the side effects that are the big scary thing in the closet, right? Everybody's like, "Oh, your femininity, aren't you worried about that?" And yeah, that was one of the reasons why I was like scared to continue. Was because I thought I had the misconception, obviously, that that was going to happen to me if I put on more muscle, if I continued down that road. So that was one of the main concerns that I had. But I quickly, like, as I got more into the sport and I knew more about it, I quickly realized that that's not the case. As long as you educate yourself and you know what you're putting into your body and what you're doing, there's going to be side effects, but you can still maintain your femininity.
Well, you're doing with the first podcast for me after I've shaved my beard, and I always used to tell some of the competitors, like, if you have a beard longer than me, then that's when I'm gonna like pull you aside and like have a little conversation with you and being like, okay, we need to talk a little bit about what's going on. But yeah, I mean, it's just it goes with the territory with the sport. But I mean, I love to talk genetics on this podcast because everyone's on social media. Every single time I hear this, oh my God, I want his arms, I want her abs, I want their back. I just want to strangle that person because it's like you can train just like this person, eat just like them, do the supplementation that they do. You're not going to look just like them. It's just an unfortunate fact of life. But whenever you first get started working out, everyone always has that one body part that really really takes off that they don't have to train as much, and they have that one body part that just drags behind that they have to train to oblivion. What was one body part that really took off for you, and then one body part that like even still to this day you have to like drag along?
My glutes, my hams, my glutes. They're always the tough part. Now I'm recognizing I thought I always had a great back, but I'm recognizing that my back needs to be bigger and wider. From the front, I've got the pieces, but from the back I need to, do some work. So it's always been a difficult area for me to put on size, mostly my hams and my glutes.
I mean, for me, I'm 6'3", so my legs and my lower body are just absolutely shot. Where I've always made the joke, I could inject pure muscle into my legs and they wouldn't even gain an ounce. It would find a way to not work. Calves don't even get me started. I mean, I think the devil blesses you with nice calves. I don't know what's going on there, but I could do 10,000 calf raises a day and no changes at all. But I mean, the nutrition aspect of this sport is so undervalued, especially like of people that just follow the sport, not super seriously. They're just kind of, they follow it every once in a while. The nutrition aspect though of it is just so much more important than just the working out. And what were some of the big nutritional changes that you made over the years and just even starting, just when you first started to realize that like, hey, the biggest myth that a lot of people don't understand is that like I'm gonna have to actually eat more food than I was eating before if I was even out of shape when I start this sport.
Yeah, that was a big one for me. It was like, I'd eat 3 meals a day. I love to cook. Cooking was one of my favorite things. I'd create exciting meals and be excited to hang out with my friends and, do the whole social thing, drink wine and eat a fancy meal with the candles and, everybody hanging out. And then when I recognized that if I wanted to continue in this journey, that was something that I'd have to give up for the most part. There's still the occasional time where I can do that, but it's very occasional. It's a lifestyle that you have to live 24/7. Initially, when I was starting, I don't know that I lived it 24/7. It was like, okay, I'm going to go into off season, and in off season, I'm just going to eat whatever I want, and because it's off season, I didn't recognize I was new, I was green, I didn't recognize um, the idea of bodybuilding as a lifestyle. It was more just a seasonal thing for me, but now that transitioned into as an Olympian you got to be on your game 24/7. There is no, even though there's off season, you just eat more of the same foods and it's around the clock. So it's been a bit of an adapting, throughout the years, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, is there a certain moment that you remember in your journey when you realize that, like, oh my God, this is a lifestyle, not just a hobby?
Yeah, probably Um, I'm not gonna say it was when I won my pro card because I didn't even really know what I was winning when I won my pro card.
Oh,
God, I
wow.
hate to say that. I hate to say it, but I was new. Like
Yeah.
again, I in 3 shows I won my pro card. So it was like I just started this journey. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm placing and placing, and the next thing you know, I'm holding a pro card. So um, I took a couple of years off. I did 2 pro shows. I took a couple of years off because I had moved across Canada. And when I went back into it so I started it at the Romania Pro in 19 or 2019, 2017,
I
2018,
was gonna
something
say, if
like
she
that.
said, like, 19, I was like, "Are you, like, 75 years old then?"
No, 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 no. Yeah, I don't look that old, do I? I have my reading glasses,
Hey,
but
I
I
have
don't think
had
I'm that
70
old.
I had a 73-year-old on, and that's the most inspiring guest I've ever had on, so, more power to you, but yeah, that's
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, it was about 2017, I'd like to say, at the Romania Muscle Fest Pro. From there, I was like competing. I got serious into competing. I was doing show after show after show. So, from 2017 or 2018, I don't remember the year, I've been doing shows consecutively. So, there's been no downtime. And that's when I really started, taking things super seriously.
do you find ways like because like the one thing with me like I told you like I went on like a 2 week just little thing with a friend just to show solidarity. I just got bored of eating the same thing over and over. Do you like try to mix things up because like I've heard stories about like bodybuilders putting mustard on their chicken or weird things like that. Do you found certain ways that work best for you and to sort of trick your mind into like not thinking that you're just eating the same thing over and over and then going through the same sort of like protocols when it comes to your nutrition?
Well, my protocols are pretty much the same every day. My food doesn't change, unfortunately. There's a few things that I can do in the off season to dress them up. Like there's sugar-free creamers for my coffee, or spicy mustard. What I do love is like ground turkey. I'll put a little bit of cinnamon on it, and then I sprinkle it with a little bit of sugar-free syrup in my off season and some salt. That's really tasty. Um, Definitely the whole, like, if I could have rice cakes, I would probably make it a sandwich or something, but I don't have rice cakes in my diet. So, you can get sometimes sugar-free jello if I want a treat and um, they're 10 calories, so I'll have a sugar-free jello, I'll throw that in. But for the most part, it's you just get used to it, honestly. And when you put stuff in your system at this point, like when you're so used to eating clean all the time, when you put something in your system, the idea of it is fantastic. You're like, oh gosh, I get to eat something that I'm not supposed to. This is amazing. It's like the bad girl, right? I'm gonna do this. It's gonna be great. And in the moment, it always is pretty cool. It tastes good. It's delicious, but afterwards you pay the price because your body does not know how to process it the same way it used to because it's so used to processing clean, healthy food. So there's a big, sometimes you have to. I think about that a lot too. Is do I want to risk feeling by eating that? No, I rather just put my clean food in my system, and you just get used to it. You just get accustomed to it.
Yeah. Well, as you can tell, I mean, you've only met me for like less than 20 minutes. Do you really think that I'm a guy that needs coffee? So I've never drank it because I'm just afraid of what's going to happen if that ever happens. I mean, my head might explode. There might be there's consequences for the people around me if that happens. So for the safety of the public, I don't drink coffee or energy drinks. But I mean, the number one thing that shocked me the most when I first started this podcast is that how hard posing is. I mean, I would have never guessed it in a million years. It's the hardest thing for so many people. What has your journey with posing been like? Being that you started in bikini, you did a show in bikini, you went to figure, and then you went to physique. I mean, the differences in posing between those categories is so immense. But just the posing aspect in general, what has that experience been like for you?
Oh, I love posing. I love, love, love posing. I practice every single day, especially now that I'm in women's physique. I can really express myself. So it's all about expression. And in figure, there's some beautiful posing. There's now it's evolved so much. I From when I was doing it, and that was only like a year and a half ago, but it was starting to get very pretty when I transitioned. But now the girls in figure, their hands, they're flawless, it's graceful, it's beautiful. Um, and women's physique, it's all about expression, like I said. So it gives me like a platform to express myself through music, through pose, like showing off my body in the best possible light, the best possible way. Um, but it is hard. It's definitely very hard, especially when you're doing your mandatories. People don't recognize how long you actually have to hold those for on stage and how much endurance that takes. So it's something that you really need to practice like on the regular, it's holding poses for 30 seconds at a time. You wouldn't be amazed at how hard, how high your heart rate can go, how much you sweat through those sessions. It's pretty insane. But you got to do your homework because posing is everything. If you don't show your physique off in the appropriate, you can have the best physique in the world, but if you don't know how to pose on stage and show it the best in the best possible light, you're gonna lose points. People aren't gonna see it the way they should.
Oh yeah, I could look like Ronnie Coleman in his prime, and I could go to a local show and I could lose it if I didn't know how to pose. Really, I mean, it's just, it's yeah, it's ridiculous how undervalued that is, and yeah, like you were talking about, and the most shocking thing for me is when people talk about how like sometimes it's even you get even more sore during that doing that than your actual workouts, and that
Hmm.
really opened it up to me. But out of your physique poses that you do, what is your favorite and what is your least favorite?
Oh, my least favorite. Let's start with that. Is the ab and thigh. I struggle with ab and thigh a lot. I really love my front relaxed, and I like my front double bicep.
I mean, the ab and thigh, I think they need to find some way to maybe change it up or do a different one because it's so unnatural looking. Like when you do that, like when you're trying to do a flowing routine and then you go to the ab and thigh, it's, I've only seen probably like when, or I don't even know if I've ever even seen one that actually did it, like actually like gracefully. It's just, I really do think that they need to, change that up. But like you were talking about before, I mean, figure posing has evolved constantly since you last did it. The whole
Hmm.
sport of bodybuilding is always ever evolving where it's like every year it somewhat changes. Do you enjoy that it changes sometimes even drastically over the year, or is it something that you kind of don't enjoy as much because it's like you might feel like you sort of have got things down and then all of a sudden the sport evolves, or where do you fall on that when it comes to, your opinion on it just always changing?
There's pros and cons to it. I mean, we as individuals change on the regular, right? So um, the world around us changes all the time. We have to learn to adapt and to grow. And I think if most people are like me that are in bodybuilding or like A-type personalities, right? It's all or nothing. So I feel like we always look for something to challenge us. So change is challenging. So I don't necessarily shy away from it, and I think that it can be a positive thing. Sometimes though, within the IFBB and within all of the NPC, CPA, all the leagues, um, the thing that gets me is when they have a certain criteria and then they say, okay, this is the criteria that we're looking for. And then they're saying, no, we don't want that anymore. We want this. So it's confusing because we all want to bring our best physique to the stage. But when we're sent mixed signals on what to present, based on, they're ever evolving, it's you're too hard, you're too soft, we want this, we want that. It's hard to bring the physique, um, or plan for the physique that they want you to bring. So
Well, yeah, because like
that's
even
kind of the
like
challenge.
even 5 years ago, your physique, you'd be a bodybuilder right now. Basically, you would compete in the
Oh yeah.
bodybuilding. I mean, it's just always, and like even the figure competitors now. I mean, like they were physique competitors, like 5 years ago as well. I mean, it's just constantly evolving, and it's always just fascinating to see how drastically it changed. Because like I've had some guests on that were competing in the '90s doing like figure, and like they wouldn't even be bikini competitors now. I mean, it's just the extremes that it's evolved into, and I don't think really any other mainstream sport has really evolved, as much as that is over that quick a period of time. But what was that moment like, at least for women's physique, when they announced your name and you realized I'm a pro now and you win your pro card? Because for so many people, that is the highlight of their career.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting. Again, I when I won my pro card, it was like I didn't really know what I was getting into. I just knew it was a pretty prestigious thing and that everybody was trying to get it, and I had secured it. So for me, that was like wow. And I've done it in such a short period of time. I was like the underdog going in. Nobody expected me to win. So that was a defining moment in my life, especially overcoming all of the challenges that I had, just about dying a couple of years earlier on two different occasions. For me, it was like this is where I belong. This is my space, and this is where I'm going to stay, and this is what fulfills me. So that was kind of in that moment how I felt. It was a very proud moment.
And what was it like? I mean, walking on that Olympia stage, because I mean, that's the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. And I mean, I have had, at least probably 50 guests on this podcast that if I told them, if you cut off your left hand and, send it to me, I will get you on that Olympia stage, they would do it without question.
Yeah, that's a bit extreme, but I mean, I could completely understand that because that is the end all be all, right? Everybody wants to be on that Olympia stage. And when you make that first pro win to get there, That is like, wow. And for me, when I made my first pro win, it was my first women's physique show. I had literally stepped on stage 3 weeks prior to that at the Tampa Pro in figure in the middle of lockdown and COVID. I flew home and I was like, I don't know, I finished just about last in figure here. I need to go into women's physique. So I jumped into women's physique 3 weeks later in Shreveport, Louisiana for my first figure show. And I won, or physique, women's physique show, pardon me, and I won my Olympia qualification. So for me, that was like, holy balls, this is happening. And this is, I'm going to be on an Olympia stage. Having said that, going to the Olympia, I thought it was going to be the most overwhelming, like, not overwhelming, the most stressful, the most, oh my God moment. Like, I'm not going to be able to do this and I'm going to be so nervous and it's just going to be way too much. Um, along with all the other excitement and the things going through. But I thought I was going to be the most nervous that I've ever been on stage. And to tell you the truth, it was the most relaxed I've ever been going on stage in my life. The whole experience was just ugh, mind blowing. And, I think when you're at that level or when you reach that, you're not fighting for anything. You're not going to get first place. You're going there, but you're standing on stage with the best of the best in the world. And, you've proved that by getting the qualification to the Olympia. So when you actually get there, it's like, wow, I've arrived. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Um,
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, one thing that's so fascinating about, just the female side of the bodybuilding as well is that, there's such a camaraderie between the competitors. And I mean, you find that very rarely in other sports. And what is that
Hmm.
like for you to sort of realize that, like, yeah, it's kind of like a lot of people have described it as like a sisterhood. And it's really knowing a lot that, like, when you walk on stage, there's so many people that have your back. How important is sort of that, relationship with that you have with fellow competitors when it comes to, maybe motivation or just helping you out through the sport? Because it's a big deal for so many people that I've talked to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for all of it's about empowering women, right? We're all there together. We're all there because we love the sport. And the more that we can, connect with the other women and the more that we can support them and the more that they can support us, I think, the easier the sport becomes, the more enjoyable it becomes. It's no longer it's a competition, but at the end of the day, everybody is supporting each other and is happy for everybody when you step off the stage, when you step on the stage. I've had girls, this year in particular at the Olympia, come to me for advice and I was blown away. I was like, oh, I've only been on the Olympia stage once before, but they it was their first time, and they felt like they needed a little bit of reassurance and a little bit of pick me up, and it was really really nice to be able to be that person to hold out my hand and say, whatever you need, let's talk, and calm down, or just supporting somebody else to give them a good experience through the whole process too. That's I think if we can all do that, we're all gonna have a great experience in the sport, you know what I mean?
Have you had like an oh my god moment meeting like another fellow bodybuilder, or are you one of those people where you're just like super calm around, like people that you might look up to, or was there any one person that like when you met them you were just like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing this?
Oh my gosh, yeah, but I try and keep it cool, it's like one of those things where sometimes I get lost with my words when I'm talking to somebody, and I think it was my first Olympia, standing next to all of these girls that I'd admired. I was like, "Wow, I'm here and I'm going on stage with all of these girls, and I admire them so much and I respect them so much." And we were talking to them backstage, and it's hard not to just smile and giggle and just be that little kid in the candy store kind of thing. But you don't want to show it. You don't want to show your um,
Yeah. Oh, no, I totally understand that. Yeah, too. There's been times, even yeah, just talking to people. Yeah, I totally understand that. And one thing that I love to talk about that isn't also not talked about as much as it should be is post-show blues, because so many people do not
oh,
understand. Yep, see, we get that reaction almost every time I bring that up, because so many people
mm,
do not understand that, like, you're not going to be able to maintain that physique year round. If you're not into the sport of bodybuilding, most people just assume that, like, oh, they must look like that, 24/7 because they work their butt off for that. And it's like, I've heard some funny stories of bodybuilders who people meet them in public and they're in their off season and they don't even think they compete. They're just like, oh, okay, I thought you were a bodybuilder, and they're like, yeah, I'm just in my off season. But What was that like when you first realized that, like, "Hey, I'm not gonna be able to maintain this shape and this size year round?" And has it gotten easier for you to accept that as your career has gone on to sort of just accept the fact that, like, "Hey, I need to put on some weight?"
Um, at first, I didn't really pay too much mind to it. I was like, "Oh, it's my off season. I'm just gonna get big. I'm gonna gain some muscle," and I was eating inappropriate things and just having fun with it. But now it's more. It's like that. The pressure is on all the time because you have to be accountable in your off season. So, like for me, staying within 15 pounds, 10, 15 pounds of my stage weight is super like important. I don't want to let myself go. So that is another stressor coming off the show is like, you got to eat more food, you got to eat more clean food, you still have to do your cardio, you still have to do all of these things and you still got to look a certain way. You can't get too far out of shape. You know what I'm saying? Um and then not having a goal or not knowing when your next show is, it's just when you're going to be ready, when you make the improvements. That's another thing I struggle with. It's like, well, if I don't have a goal right now, why do I have to eat like this? Why can't I just have like a dinner out with my friends? And why can't I like, that's tough. But the post show blues are definitely like a real thing. It's hard to be motivated 24/7. It's hard to eat the same foods 24/7. It's like sometimes you just want to break, but at you just if you love the sport and you want to get better at the sport and you want to do your best, you have to live the life 24/7. So it can be like I said, it's very overwhelming sometimes because part of you just wants to live a normal life and bodybuilding is not normal.
Yeah, and I mean, I compare it to like starting your own business where you got to spend money to make money. You got to put on weight if you want to put on muscle. Unfortunately, those two do go hand in hand. But is there anything specific that you do for stress? Because like most people do not understand how much stress impacts your body when it comes to either your weight or just your ability to do stuff in the gym. Anything that you do in particular? Because I mean, being a bodybuilder, that's stressful enough. But especially going off a show when you're just stressed, like you talk about, stress about maintaining up to 15 pounds, of what you came on the show. Anything that you do in particular to sort of help you with that stress?
um there's there's a few things. I mean, they're just minor things. I go for weekly body treatments. I have Epsom salt baths with candles and bubble bath every single night. That helps. Getting my rest, getting my proper sleep, that's super important. Doing things self care. So basically, um, what I used to do with food or going out with my friends, I now substitute that with like, okay, what can I do for myself? Can I go to the spa? Maybe I need some Botox. Maybe I need to buy myself a new outfit or, go for a foot rub or, there's a lot of things that I now do in place of what I used to gratify myself with food. And it all surrounds like self-care, taking care of myself. Yeah, definitely something that's really, really important. Meditation. I don't meditate, but I spend a lot of time in my own mind and my own thoughts, just quiet time. I don't put the TV on. I just sit quietly and just be with my thoughts. And that sometimes helps ground me when I get stressed. Just leaving things kind of to the side and focusing on just the present.
And if you have your windows open, the neighbors are like, "What the hell is she doing? She's just sitting there with nothing on, just like doing." But no, no, and I've had those moments too with myself. Where next thing you know, you like look at the clock and you're like, "I've been doing this for like 15 minutes. Like, what am I doing?" But it's just yeah, it's just that little zen. But you mentioned sleep, and that is the most undervalued thing in anyone's life. You don't even
Hmm.
have to be a bodybuilder. But anyone that tells me that it's not the hardest thing about, especially the bodybuilding lifestyle, I always tell them, go pull an all-nighter and then go and try to work out and tell me how that works out for you. Sleep is so, especially as you get into your prep, and I mean, people do not understand the conundrum of being so tired that you can't sleep, especially as you get to like those last few weeks. I try to explain it to people, but what is your relationship with sleep like? Are you like one of those people that you can function off little sleep, or do you need your like a lot of sleep? Where do you fall on that spectrum?
My sleep is all over the place. Like right now, in my off season, all I want to do is sleep. My body needs like the rest. It just wants to sleep. But that's only because I've been competing for 2 years solid. Um, and the last few months of prep, you don't sleep. Like legit, you do not sleep. Your body is like on some kind of weird adrenaline, and you sleep maybe 2 hours, you're always drinking lots of water. So, I mean, I drink water all around, all year round, and a lot
You
of
become a
it.
human
But
faucet, basically. Yeah.
pretty much. And then, of course, you're lean and you're doing your cardio and you're always in this. Um, so the last few months of prep, you legit don't sleep at all. You have to force yourself. Your body is so tired. You're physically, mentally exhausted. But when you try and sleep, it's maybe 2 hours at a time. And then you wake up and then it's another 2 hours if you're lucky. Some nights you sleep zero, and then you're getting up and you're doing an hour of cardio on the stairmaster, and then you're going back to the gym, and you're eating, your calories are so low, and you just feel like death. You literally feel like you want to die some days. It's tough. So sleep definitely, that's a priority, because also if you don't get your proper sleep, your stress levels go up, and then it's harder to um, you know lose the weight or lose the fat, because your cortisol levels are so high. So it's kind of like you have to force yourself somehow to get that rest, especially in the last few months of prep.
Even hearing you say an hour of cardio after getting no sleep just brought chills in my spine a little bit. I was just, getting a little, but yeah, it is just so undervalued. And, I take melatonin like like it's, going out of style, but that really helps me. But now we go to the bane of my existence, cardio. I hate it more than life itself. And when I say cardio, I mean like actual running. Like I can walk, for forever and, I'm totally fine with it. But when you do become a bodybuilder, unfortunately, you do sort of sign a deal with the devil when it comes to cardio. What is your relationship with cardio like?
Ugh. Right now, my cardio is fine. I jump on my spin bike in the morning. I do 30 minutes of steady state. My heart rate is up there, but not high high. So it's pretty. I turn on a program that I like and just zone out. Um, but midway through prep, maybe not even midway, probably at the beginning of prep, my coach usually puts me on the death mill, so the stairmaster, and it's hit death mill. So it's super intense. An hour, well, 50 minutes to an hour of just fasted on the stairmaster, sweating, dying, can't breathe. I hate it. I absolutely despise it. It's a love hate relationship because I hate it while I'm doing it, and then when it's done, I'm like, that was the best thing ever. I feel so good.
I understand as well. I mean, I hate it, but it's a necessary evil when it comes to, achieving a look that you want, where it's like you have to do it. But yeah, I agree with you on that. And I mean, let's be completely honest, you're not the average looking woman. And if you were to like go out in public, dress the way that you even are right now, you're gonna get stares and extra added. I sort of compare it to like being a mini celebrity, where it's like you're just gonna draw people's attention. And what was that like, starting off? And has it gotten easier for you to accept that as you're, obviously you've competed more and more and gotten more into the sport that like I can't really go walk out without getting people's attention now?
I think I'm used to it now. My physique has obviously evolved, so I get more attention now, because I'm a lot bigger. Um, it's interesting because it's mostly from little kids. Little kids look at me and then their parents are like, "Oh, I'm sorry." They try and apologize for their kids. It's so cute, but they just don't understand, like, a woman with big muscles, it's very strange to them. I've had people ask me for selfies, especially when I'm in contest shape. I don't even know. They're like, "Wow, you're in such good shape. Can I take a picture with you?" It's like they've never seen somebody in really good shape before. Um, in elevators, I've been asked if I'm a professional wrestler. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. I'm used to it now though, so I just smile. The things that I don't like are the people that are very inappropriate, and there's quite a few of those. People that are really inappropriate. They don't understand. They don't, or they understand and they like it too much. Or there's two sides to that spectrum. I've had like weird stalker dudes, and then I've had like people that are just downright disgusted. So
That is one thing that when I first started doing this podcast, I was not aware of. And then it made me almost want to just log off my computer and like never touch any social media again because, and even like I told you before, like you my message to you went like straight to spam because, and I get that because I've heard some stories on here of, like what people, especially like on Instagram and stuff, get, where it's like, I'm surprised that enough people even respond to me as they do, just because it's like, I could never do that myself. So that even adds, I mean, that's something that unfortunately I wish wouldn't add on to my respect for the competitors, but it does, just because how they're able to even, pull through with that. But yeah, it's just, it's fascinating when you really, dig into it and get in deep. But I mean, yeah, again, it's just, ugh. Yeah, I hear some of those stories, and I just cringe. But more power to you for getting through them. But on top of just the look and stuff, this is so much more of a mental sport than it is a physical sport. Even though most people would never understand that because they just see the look and they say, "Oh wow, you've changed." What has this journey been like for you mentally? Because I mean, it's 100 times more important than the physical change, and unfortunately, most people just won't recognize that.
Yeah, mental you have to be in a really good mental place. You have to be very strong-minded. People that are weak-minded could never do bodybuilding. You have to have the extreme discipline. Um, yeah, it's to me, if I didn't have the mental capacity to do this, I would never have the physical attributes that I do. And I think that goes to say, that stands for everybody in the industry. Um,
Well, on top of that, like, where do you go deep down? Because especially the one thing that I think differentiates just an average person who works out to a bodybuilder is everyone has those days where they wake up and they just do not want to go to the gym. Their body's aching, especially like as you said, like those last couple of weeks in prep where it's just like you're just like death, basically. Where do you go deep down to sort of find that extra push that most people don't have? Because that's really, like I said, it's what separates the average, gym going public for that is that the average gym goer just be like, yep, I'll just take today off, or, maybe I'll take the rest of the week off and just won't go in. Where do you find that extra added oomph that, really makes you sort of go to the gym?
It's my goals. And it's also not letting myself down. If I let myself down, that's the worst thing. I don't care about letting anybody else down because you can't please everybody else. But I got into the sport to achieve a goal for myself, and that's to be a better version of myself mentally and physically and emotionally. And you put all those things in a basket, and you have your goal in front of you, and you know that if you do something along the way that is going to interfere with that goal, that you're accountable to yourself. So I'm the worst critic on myself, and I'm the worst disciplinarian on myself. So the last thing that I ever want to do is disappoint myself. So um, yeah, it's tough, but I always give myself that self talk. Okay, don't be a stupid. Get yourself up. This sucks right now, but once you get there, it's going to be okay. Somebody at the gym is going to give you a smile. Somebody is going to, say something. And if they don't, that's okay. You always look to people around you to make you feel a little bit like alive, right? Somebody's gonna say, "Wow, you look great." And then you're gonna be like, "Okay, yeah, it was worth it to get here,"
Or someone
or
says, wow, you really need to get in shape. And then you're like,
or
why did I do this? This is the wrong idea.
or they could say, "God damn, you look like shit." Be like, "Yes, I do, but I'm here." And you know what? I'm motivating somebody else to get up and do it. So at the end of the day, it's literally just that self-talk to, know what your goal is and just go after it and not let anything stand in your way. And that includes being tired, and I call it embracing the suck. You got to embrace the suck in order to, to go that extra mile to be where you want to be in this sport. Because if I'm not, and I also tell myself, if I don't do it, there's somebody else out there that's doing it 10 times harder than me. So am I going to let myself down and let that person beat me? I'm very competitive. I'm not going to do that.
Absolutely. And again, social media I think is a blessing and a curse when it comes to that, because this is one of the few sports where like you could actually just look at other people's Instagrams and see their progress and know sort of what you're competing against. That would be just a mental conundrum for me. But my favorite question to ask, what was your friends and family's reaction like when you announced to them, like, hey, I want to be a bodybuilder? And especially being a mom, what was your kids' reaction like when you're just like, oh, I have a jacked mom now all of a sudden? Like, what's going on
Oh,
now?
my kid loves it. He's 24. He shows my picture to everybody. He says I'm his biggest inspiration.
Yeah.
He loves it. People are like, dude, that's your mom? He's like, yeah, isn't she hot? I'm like, oh God, you're showing my picture to all your friends. That's so creepy. But yeah, I mean, he's very proud of me, and I love my son. He's just like my biggest fan and my biggest supporter. So I'm very blessed that way. My parents, on the other hand, my dad is a cool guy. He's just like, yeah, cool, right on. Whatever makes you happy. And my mom is very like, you're gonna stand in a bikini in front of all those people? Oh my God. I'll tell you a story. The bikini show that I did for my first show, I like was before I knew how boring it was to go sit at a bodybuilding show. I was like, "Oh, you guys got to come watch me for my 1 minute on stage." But I didn't realize I had to sit there for 5 hours and watch everybody else for my like 5 seconds on stage. But anyway, so I asked my mom to come, and she showed up, and she literally walked into the building. Then my son was with her, so he told me the story. She walked into the building, she sat down and saw people like wearing next to nothing on stage and couldn't bear it. She walked outside and sat outside the venue, and she couldn't. To this day, she doesn't understand it. She doesn't support it. She thinks that it's unhealthy. She thinks it's disgraceful. But you know what? It is what it is. It's not about her. It's not her journey. It's not her life. It's mine. So there's all. Moral of the story is there's always going to be somebody in somebody's family that isn't supportive, that doesn't understand. That it's we just have to realize that it's not about them. It's about you and what you want.
Absolutely. And as we are getting close to Christmas, I mean, we're recording this before Christmas, but it'll be out after Christmas. How do you deal with that sort of nutritionally? Are you one person where you kind of let yourself go for a day or two, or since does everything still be measured, or are you that one person? I mean, I hope that you don't answer it like this, but are you that one person that just takes their own food to like their Christmas dinner and just eats it in front of everyone else?
Well, that's a really good question. If my coach says that I can eat on Christmas, I'm going to eat. I'm going to say, hell yeah, I'm going to
Or if
eat.
he tells you not to, just say, I got that message after I'd already eaten all my Christmas stuff.
Uh, it's a hard one because I don't know what I'm going to be doing for Christmas anyway. I'll probably just end up cooking for my son. Um, and if that's the case and I'm allowed to eat, great. If I'm not, I'll just cook the turkey and eat a piece of the turkey, just not the skin and the fat. So I'll work my way around it. I'll probably have a nibble of something else here and there. Again, I'm in off season, so if it means doing an extra few minutes of cardio or cutting back on some of the macros or I don't go by macros, but if I cut back on some of the other things that I eat throughout the day to enjoy a little bit more, I probably will.
Meanwhile, I mean, my family, we do the weird combo of we have turkey and then we also have crab. So I'm just
Oh,
looking
wow.
forward to those. I don't know why. They've always my dad's side did the turkey and then my mom's side sort of did the crab. So I'm just thinking about those crab. I mean, turkey and crab, yeah, that's a weird combo to really put together, but hey, it is tasty. And I mean, as we get close to wrapping things up now, I mean, two of my favorite questions to ask at the end here. If someone were to walk up to you and say, Tanya, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you would like to see changed?
Oh, boy. One thing about the
I
sport of
know it's sort of like
bodybuilding.
opening Pandora's box, so that's why I save it to the end.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Hmm.
I can give you mine while you're thinking, and then you can think
Yeah,
of it.
please,
Yeah,
please.
absolutely. So, well, for me, obviously, being a baseball pitcher, I've dealt with impartial, umpires on my end, but impartial judging too, because like you said, you might go to one show and they might want you a little bit more of a tone look. You go to another show, they might want you a little bit more of a fuller look. Come up with a standard sort of what you're looking for and have it be sort of universal. And then we're talking about we're not even going to get into like other federations how they judge people and stuff. It just have sort of like a universal thing of like this is what we want, this is what we're looking for. Because I've heard stories of people, they compete in shows 2 to 3 weeks apart. They place first in one show and they place like fifth or sixth in another one, and they have the same exact look. And it's just like, and a lot of the competitors are like the same for the shows. It's not like they're competing against new people, but yeah, that would be mine at least.
Yeah, I mean, there is judging that kind of. But I have to say, like I really do trust a lot of the judging.
Oh,
There is
absolutely, yeah.
subjectiveness, but I also have to say that whole like 6 weeks here and 6 weeks there, you're standing in a different line of people. So they're looking at what's the best on the stage. What is the look that we're comparing people to? So a lot of times, and sometimes 6 weeks makes all the difference. They might not think they look that different, but they could be crisper, they could be drier, they could have reached their peak on stage the way it is. So I don't like that, when people say that, because I feel like there's a little bit of truth to it, but I think at the same time there's a lot of room for error in
Again,
that
we're talking about a guy
statement.
who's never competed too, so just take my word with a grain of salt, everyone.
Right. Okay. I just always
Yeah,
want to jump
yeah.
into the
Oh,
to the
absolutely.
defense of some of the judges because again, and there's always judges that are looking for something different as well. So you could be with a judge that is looking for a drier, harder look than a judge that is looking for, if you don't have them all at the same table, they could be looking for something different. You just have to kind of know what the judges are looking for and try and bring that package. Anyway, back to the question that you asked me. One of the things that is a pet peeve for me is um, how the girls or the males or anybody competing at a novice level show or at a regional show or at a like a qualifying show to get their pro card, how different is to being a pro. I think that that's one of the biggest pet peeves. I think that the lower um,
Tears. Yeah,
federations,
lower
the lower
federations.
federations, um, start mimicking what is happening in the pro leagues. So we're bringing all of these people down here into the pro leagues that aren't ready for it because they haven't been um, the time of presentation is different. The amount that they have to present themselves, the way it's structured is different. The looks that they're going for are different a lot of times. There's not a lot of congruency between the two, and I think that that's one of my biggest pet peeves is because some of the girls or the guys think that it's going to be exactly the same when they hit the pro leagues, and it's way different. We're setting a lot of those competitors up for failure in the lower levels before or if they do make it to the IFBB. That's one of the pet peeves I have.
Oh, I totally understand that too. I mean, it's just like sometimes, like when I got called up to varsity football when I was a freshman, I was not ready for that. Everyone, for a game, I was on there, and it's sort of like that when you sort of first realize that you're a little fish in a big pond after a while. But if someone were to also walk up to see, that was my tongue tied and twisted moment. Everyone, we got it out of there. Luckily, it happened towards the end now. So, but again,
Yes.
so if someone were to walk up to you and say, Tanya, I made the decision. I want to get in shape now. I want to sort of adapt a more healthy and fit lifestyle. What is one piece of advice that you like to give everyone? Because we mentioned it before with genetics. Unfortunately, there isn't just one big program that you can give everyone that's going to work out. But just in general, what piece of advice do you like to give people if they ever come to you and just like, hey, I'm just looking to get started?
Start small and be consistent with whatever you do. Make the goal attainable. So don't set yourself up with a huge goal that you know that you're not going to be able to accomplish. Do small things and add something to it per week. So do something that you know you can accomplish one week, and once you've done that, go into the next week adding something else that you think that you can accomplish. Pretty soon, that consistency is going to turn into a habit, and then you're going to form great habits based on the small changes that you made that will make yourself, a long-term goal, or make it more feasible for you to have that long-term goal and make it more attainable.
I so appreciate you saying that because so many people go full on Rambo the first week that they go in there. They go, yeah, I'm gonna go work out for like 2-3 hours, and I'm just gonna train everything. A week later, they're done, and it's like, well, yeah, because you exhausted your body, and it's like, yeah, just take your baby steps. And I mean, as much as there have been times too where I've maybe taken a month off of working out, and then I go back in really hard, and then it's like you humble yourself after the first couple of days and realize, like, like, hey, it's, you got to be careful with that too as well. And I mean, when we talk to you a year from today, because I would love to have you on a year from today, just to talk about what you've been up to since then. What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved in your bodybuilding? What are some goals that you'd like to just have in just in your overall life? What are some things that you'd like to have achieved if we have you on a year from today?
Well, I'm hoping that I will make it back to the Olympia for my third straight year, and my goal is to definitely crack the top 10 this coming year if I make it. So top five would be amazing, but I'm realistic, so I'm hoping for a top 10. I'm just hoping to get back to the Olympia stage. That is for my bodybuilding career. In terms of my personal life, not in like dating or anything
Oh
because I
no,
don't
no,
really
yeah,
care
yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
just yeah.
But in terms of like goals, I have a project that I'm working on that I'm really hoping is going to come to fruition. So, I have a lot of goals outside of bodybuilding, a lot of things that I'm working on. So we'll see. Hopefully, I'll be able to talk to you more about those things.
Oh, I mean, for me, I mean, I'm just hoping my one share of Bitcoin is going to reach $1 million. Then that's my goal. That's my year goal right there. So we'll
That's amazing.
we'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean, hey, so I have a friend who bought like 100 shares of it before. He forgot his password, so now he can't log in and claim it. So he has like
Oh
he
no.
has like 3 more tries before it logs him out completely, and he can't even claim any of it.
Is there a way
So
to reset your password?
no, you can't because he didn't like he bought it like at 2008 when it was like valued at like $1 a share,
Oh,
basically.
man.
So yeah, he loves himself. I'll just leave it at that. You know, I could not live with myself if that happened if that happened to me. But
Ugh.
yeah, again, everyone, I'm making everyone's life feel better by realizing that this guy is worth like $48 million now at this age, but he can't even claim it really. So you know, yeah, yeah. So there's that, you know. So anytime that you think that you're having a bad day, just remember about the guy who might be out of $48 million
$48
just
million
because he forgot his
dollars.
password, basically. So, you know, there's that. But again, you know, Tanya, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and, you know, sharing your journey with us. It was an absolute delight. Is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up? All right.
Not really, maybe my son.
I was gonna say
Hi,
your son,
sweetie.
or we usually get like a trainer or something like that. But hey, you know, that's fine. But again, you guys, everyone, go and give her a follow. I'll leave a link to her Instagram page down below. Buyer beware. You will get inspired. You know, get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies, and you know, maybe pick up a weight every once in a while. But again, like before, Tanya, it was an absolute delight to talk to you, and we wish you
Thank
nothing but the best.
you.
And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great time talking to you.
I appreciate that. Hey, that's the best compliment I can get at the end of it, and I appreciate that more than anything else. And again, you guys, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.